Hello everyone, welcome to Down by Contact Football, DBC Football Ep7, a special two-part episode. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter at DBC_football, or check us out on YouTube, DBC Football, not BBC Football, www.dbcfootball.com for our blog and our photo gallery. Thanks for joining us, thanks for coming back. I hope you enjoyed episode 6. This is the continuation, episode 7, part of our draft special here, after being at the draft all weekend. Tom, how you doing?
I'm still doing good.
Still doing great. We're troopering through it.
Oh, yeah.
Part 2 of our two-part series here on the draft, episode 7. Let's get right into it, Tom.
Right into it.
How does that make you feel?
I like it. I like just going right into it.
So as we said in episode 6 here, we said we get back to the biggest shock of the draft. The biggest shock of the draft was what, Tom?
2 words. Mitch Trubisky.
Not even Mitchell.
No, I'm not giving him...
Mr. Biscuit, as he's known to his teammates at North Carolina.
I mean, it was the number 2 pick. I don't think he was worthy of that pick, even if he is a quarterback.
Yeah,
And
13 career starts at UNC.
just what Chicago had to give up just to move up one spot.
Yeah.
For a guy they probably could have got if they stayed where they were.
They would have clearly would have gotten him. John Lynch is actually on record as saying he was going to take Reuben Foster, which is crazy because he thought, yeah. Anywho, Chicago went full Cleveland. You never go full Cleveland. You never ever go full Cleveland, Chicago.
Pace and Fox just must really not want to make it past this year.
Part of me thinks they're just trolling the Bears fans. Feed the Bears. Not really sure. And then you have on the other side of that coin, John Lynch went full Kevin Costner in draft day. I want all my picks back. Plus, I want your picks. And I want your best special teamer. Now. And I want Jennifer Garner.
Can't go wrong with that.
Who's like 20 years younger than me. No, I'm just kidding, Kevin Costner. No, it was insane. I mean, Ryan Pace signed his death warrant in Chicago.
Yeah.
This is his third year as GM of the Bears. I don't know what their plan is. I mean, they just shelled out $18.5 million from Mike Glennon, who, by the way, was their special guest at their draft party, only to watch the Bears trade up and take his replacement.
Yeah, I mean, they didn't draft for need, and they didn't draft best player available. Yeah. It's like, what were they doing? So
Glennon got to throw out a first pitch for the Cubbies coming off their World Series win and got booed. His pitch actually wasn't bad. He from the mound made it across the plate. So, kudos. It wasn't one of those 50-cent Curtis Jackson pitches for the Mets. But then you had the Bulls game come on, and they showed up Mitchell Trubisky on the big board, and he got booed. So the Bears fans, we feel your pain when we're sorry for your loss of value for your franchise, because this is a terrible pick. A terrible pick, Chicago.
Like it would have even been a terrible pick had they not given up what they've given up. Had to give up for that.
So rough. 13 career starts, and he seems like a nice guy. And again, I briefly mentioned in episode 6, again, part of our two-part series here, Trubisky definitely had some questionable tweets out there on the Twitter. Feel free to go check them out. You can probably just Google, what those were. There's one in specific I have in mind, and I'll talk to you later about it, Tom.
I mean, I feel like this was one of the deepest defensive drafts in a long time.
Remind me again, what does Chicago need?
Pretty much everything on defense. I don't understand what they were thinking.
And the thing that really hurts me is you look at Mitch Trubisky, Mr. Biscuit, and who's he going to throw the ball to? Cameron Meredith?
And Zach Miller.
Zach Miller? I mean,
he'll have a good time handing it off to Jordan Howard.
But will he? I mean, Jordan Howard's not going to face all these stacked boxes. I mean, I still expect Mike Glennon to be the starter day one at this point because, and again, he seems like a nice guy, but 13 career starts, no quarterback's ever been drafted this high with that few starts.
You don't give a guy $15 million a year and then give a bunch of draft picks away to draft the same position.
Yeah, it's so rough. Poor Mike Glennon too. Now the only quarterback who's ever started a very limited amount of games and get drafted, Cam Newton started 14 career games for Auburn, but he's a little bit different than a Mitchell Trubisky.
He played in
Auburn. Yeah,
he played in a very decent college division compared.
I mean the ACC is pretty good nowadays, but
North Carolina's not really
they're not a powerhouse for football. And I mean, the best of luck to you, Bears, and their fans. And
I hope it works out for you.
Yeah,
but
hey, at least you guys won the World Series.
Yeah, right.
So
Look, it looks bleak.
You can hang your baseball caps on that.
Yeah, I mean, baseball season's in full swing. Just enjoy that while that's happening
Although
before Bear season starts.
The Phils took it to the Cubbies.
They did
last night, 10-2. So, holding it down for the fighting Phils.
I mean, they're definitely a young, exciting team.
Yeah, scrappy team. Anyway, I digress.
Back to
football. Okay, now that we've gotten that out of the way, never go full Cleveland,
now
Chicago.
That we got that off our chest.
Anyway, draft fantasy take. Let's get to our first fantasy segment in the history of DBC football.
First ever. It's exciting.
Pretty exciting. I'm pretty pumped.
It's the basis of our show.
It is. So, Tom, let me hear your fallout, your negatives, and your positives. Give it to me straight, Tom. Who we drafting this year, and who aren't we drafting this year?
I got two guys to stay away from, and both these guys are talented players. So I'll start with Alvin Kamara. I mean, I don't see any running back getting more than like 8 carries in that backfield.
It's so tough. It's so tough. I mean, but Sean Payton finds a way to get guys the ball, and I'm sure Alvin Kamara is going to be their punt returner.
I mean, he's definitely like more of a we plan on being in a 16-team league, so he's definitely a guy you might want to look at.
He'll get drafted in our league.
Weeks and everything like that. Number 2, Joe Mixon. I mean, while I personally think he's probably the best running back on that team.
Right.
I mean, the other two guys, have been guys that have been worthy of fantasy draft picks.
Yeah, I mean, the other guys have been, at one point or another, a fantasy first-round pick.
Yeah.
Maybe a little less so for Gio Bernard, that is. But Jeremy Hill, I mean, he went first round in a lot of people's fantasy drafts.
I just feel like it's you never like that crowded backfield in fantasy football because you just never know who's going to get it.
Yeah, it's a real buzzkill.
Mm-hmm. Now I'll get with my top additions. I got 3 guys.
So this is the guys that you're drafting.
Yes.
These are the guys you're coming after.
Either I'm drafting or they're going to help somebody on their team out. Now I'm going to start at number 3. I got O.J. Howard. And, usually tight ends, it usually takes them a couple years to really get acclimated. But I just feel like this guy...
We're still waiting on Eric Ebron.
Yeah. I just feel like this guy is ready from day one. I mean, he stayed in college for another year.
And Alabama really did him dirty. They convinced him that if he stayed, he'd be featured in the pass game. Do you know how many more passes he was thrown last year as opposed to the year prior? 10.
Hey, to be fair, that is more, so they did not really like it.
Yeah. Anyway, I digress.
But I just feel like, it'll help out Mike Evans, Jameis Winston, Deshaun Jackson.
Yeah.
I just feel like, overall, it'll help players on that team, if not himself.
Yeah, I like O.J. Howard. I mean, he's going to be on the field all 3 downs.
Yeah.
I mean, he can block, he can run, he can catch. I certainly, wish him the best, and I like him as a top 20, maybe top 15 tight end, and obviously if he shows explosion early.
It's just rookie year tight end type thing.
Exactly, and if he shows explosion early, I mean, if he's making the plays, he's going to only get better. I think he's worth a late pick if you're on a league that requires you to have 2 tight ends, or if you're in a deeper league with like our league has 16 teams.
Some of the guys you want it. I mean, it's definitely not. We're definitely in a little bit of a lull on great tight ends.
And if you're in a dynasty league, I mean, he'd be a great pickup.
Yeah.
So.
Number 2, I have Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah, no doubt.
I just feel like that would help Cam Newton out a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And he's very similar size to Shady McCoy. I mean, a lot of people are saying he can't run between tackles in the NFL. I mean, Shady can. I mean, I think he's 2 pounds lighter, same height.
Right.
And I just feel like that was a very good pick for them. They definitely needed to get younger at the running back position. So I just feel like he's also a natural pass catcher, and that will also help out.
Yeah, Christian McCaffrey is what they call a 4-core player.
Mm-hmm.
Not only will he be on the field, could he be on the field for first and second down and actually run the ball, but he's a pass catcher and he's a pretty good pass blocker in his own right. So I think that's where you get your 3 downs, and then a 4-core player. Yeah, I mean the guy is electric with the ball, and watching some of his career punt return touchdowns. He's a patient runner. I mean, it's very rare, especially younger guys. They just want to attack the hole. Christian McCaffrey is a patient runner.
In fantasy, getting points from your defense is definitely a big need. Like, a lot of people don't really recognize that, but then you look at it and your defense is at -5 points.
Absolutely. And depending on your league setup, if it's PPR, if it's half PPR, or if it's points for special teams for the individual, I mean, McCaffrey's stock skyrockets. And again, great dynasty league pick. Could be a pretty good auction pick depending on how somebody feels about him in your draft. I like Christian McCaffrey a lot this year.
And lastly, my number one, Corey Davis.
Corey Davis. I actually thought you were going somewhere else.
Really? Who'd you think I was going with?
I thought you were going to go with someone that I'm going to say.
Okay.
So
we'll get
I'll
to
hang
that.
tight.
I feel like, I mean, you obviously saw the growth from Marcus Mariota last year, and he really didn't have that number one receiver. I mean, he was throwing to Rashard Matthews, Tajay Sharp, and
Delaney Walker.
Yeah. I mean, he's one of the better tight ends in the league, but I mean, he's obviously starting to get up there a little bit.
Long in the tooth.
But I just feel like getting that dynamic number one receiver could definitely help out Marcus Mariota.
Oh, undoubtedly. You know, they took a couple wide receivers in this draft. Hey, Corey Davis is probably their day one starter. You know,
I mean, he was. You know, Marcus Mariota is arguably the best red zone quarterback.
Yeah. I mean, last year he was,
and they just added a big target for the end zone.
Yeah. I mean, it showed itself, right? I know I drafted Delaney Walker in just about all my leagues last year. It kind of sucked when Mariota got hurt, but it was later in the season. But yeah, Marcus Mariota was money last year. So we'll see what happens. I like your pick of Corey Davis. I'm gonna go. I'm just gonna throw out five players with projected rankings here. So my 5 fantasy rookies to watch this season. Number 5, Jamal Williams, running back for the Green Bay Packers. Later round pick, kind of an underrated guy. With the release of Christine Michael, which we'll touch on. And Don Jackson. I could see Jamal Williams in the neighborhood of 600 yards, 200 yards receiving, and 5 combined touchdowns this year.
Yeah, definitely good bye week spot
Yeah, right.
start,
Could be a spot starter. It could take over the starting role later in the season. I don't think he comes out of the gates with that job, but
unless he completely just kills it in
still a possibility
and preseason.
But he's a good sleeper to keep your eye on, Jamal Williams. Number 4, I have Corey Davis. I think he's a very good wide receiver. I do think Mariota is such a good quarterback that he's going to spread the ball around really efficiently. I think everyone's going to have they're going to have 3 pseudo ones with Corey Davis being a little bit better, and then obviously Delaney Walker being kind of on par with that. So I give Corey Davis somewhere in the neighborhood of 800 yards and about 5 touchdowns.
Okay.
Number 3, I have Zay Jones, wide receiver, Buffalo Bills. I put him right in the cusp of the 1,000-yard range, again with 5 touchdowns. Rookies and touchdowns don't always seem to go hand in hand.
Depends a lot on if Sammy Watkins can stay healthy. Because if they can keep the coverage off of him, he could definitely
absolutely
make plays.
I actually projected Sammy Watkins' injury there to make Zay Jones the number 1. So Zay Jones gets the number 1.
Projected likely to happen.
Yes. Gets about 1,000 yards, 5 touchdowns. My number 2, we can't go wrong with Leonard Fournette. Instant day 1 starter for the Jacksonville Jaguars. I actually like him to get somewhere in the neighborhood of 1,200 yards total. Yeah. I don't think he gets that many receiving, but I like him somewhere in that 1,200-yard range with about 6 touchdowns, and then anything he does better in the passing game, just because he hasn't done it yet, is just a bonus on top of that.
I feel like, it's not that he can't. He just wasn't really given the chance. I feel like if you give him time to really develop,
Yeah, his pro day, he dropped that water weight, and he looked a lot more fluid in the hips. It's going to be about, can he pass block? Can he understand the protection schemes for Blake Bortles? Because that's going to be really key for Blake as you get into the third down.
That could even help Blake Bortles out. If you can make him so he's not throwing the ball 40 times a game.
Yeah, Ivory had some health concerns last year. He had some injury concerns last year.
TJ Yeldon just hasn't lived up to
another one of those Alabama running backs.
To the Le'Veon Bell comparisons he was getting early in his career.
Yeah, that was a whiff.
Yeah.
And then my number 1 for an overall fantasy value this season, Christian McCaffrey, running back for the Panthers. I like him somewhere in that possibly that 900-yard rushing range and 600-yard receiving range. I think he's just going to be dynamic and take so much pressure off Cam Newton, because then you have to really consider you've got big, tall receivers on the outside. You've got Curtis Samuel working his way in there. And then you have Christian McCaffrey, Cam Newton. You've got a lot going on. Jonathan Stewart's still there, too.
Yeah, but he gets hurt every year. So
and he gets hurt every year.
Opens the door for Christian McCaffrey to be in there.
Yeah, so again, I think I like him in that neighborhood of 900 rushing, 600 receiving. And I know that's pretty bold, but I also like him for about 9 offensive touchdowns and 2 special teams touchdowns.
Which, like we mentioned, is
four core player.
Yeah.
So really good stuff. You certainly can't go wrong there. That all being said, Tom, I think we should go way too early picks for Offensive Rookie of the Year.
Is it ever way too early for something
Rookie of the
in
Year.
football?
It's not. That's what we like to do. We like to project things. We like to guess. We like to be bold, and we like to make these suggestions.
Mm-hmm.
So, Tom, run me through your Offensive Rookie and Defensive Rookie of the Years.
Now, I got 3 guys who I think could potentially be in there. 3 going from less likely out of the group to number 1 being the most likely. I'll start with offense. My number 3, I have Mike Williams.
Okay.
I just feel like, he's got a future potential Hall of Fame quarterback. Throwing the ball to him, and, the yearly Keenan Allen injury, when's that going to happen?
Well, they're out of San Diego, so they're drinking new water, and I think that might help.
Well, that's remains to be seen. But I just feel like, it was definitely a surprise pick, but,
yeah,
he definitely adds another aspect to that offense.
Oh, without a doubt. He's a playmaker. I'd love to see him succeed. He seems like a really nice guy.
Oh, yeah. Number 2, I got Leonard Fournette.
Okay.
So I just feel like they don't. They picked up Blake Bortles' 5th-year option. They don't want to see him fail.
Mm-hmm.
They want to see him succeed. They added some players to the O-line. I just feel like they're going to try to follow the script that Dallas had last year and just feed the ball to your running back.
Yeah, you look at 2 years ago, and the conversation was, when will Blake Bortles get locked up to his long-term deal?
Mm-hmm.
Then he came in last year and just completely regressed on his mechanics, on his timing. It's really tough. But I got to say, after the year he had, everyone keyed in on his tape, and they just pressed the receivers, and Jacksonville wasn't going to run it on you.
Yeah.
So what do you do if you're Blake Bortles? So I think the addition of Leonard Fournette, Blake Bortles will have a pretty good year. And I also like Michael Rivera to take some pressure off the middle of the field and open up some holes for Leonard Fournette.
I feel like he's going to be, the bell cow from day one.
Yeah, I think it's unquestioned.
They're just
the 4th overall pick. You don't take a guy at 4 to have him in a rotation.
Yeah, they're just going to feed him the ball, and then, he's going to break some. Yeah, exactly. Just like Zeke.
Yeah, just like Zeke.
And then number 1, I have O.J. Howard. He's the best offensive player in this draft, and how he lasted to 19, I don't know.
Yeah,
and he's got a good
I think he's too humble to even give himself a chip on his shoulder, but
he's got a good young quarterback to throw to him.
Famous Jameis.
He's got receivers to really take coverage off of him. I feel like he can just make an impact from day one.
Yeah, it's really tough. I'm gonna go a little bit different. I'm just gonna give you. I'm just gonna hand out the trophies.
Go ahead.
I'm gonna give them out.
Go ahead.
Just give them out. That's what I'm gonna do. Don't pressure me. My Defensive Rookie of the Year. I'm handing the trophy right now to Jamal Adams.
Okay.
I think he's the best defensive player in this draft. I think he's gonna be an instant playmaker. That's kind of how I'm feeling. My Offensive Rookie of the Year, I'm gonna hand my trophy to Zay Jones, just because I think Sammy's gonna get hurt, and I think Zay Jones is gonna put a lot on his back, and he's gonna look like a leader from day one. So good for him. Those are my offensive and defensive. How about your defensive picks?
Now, I actually don't have Jamal Adams in my top 3.
Really?
My thinking is, he's definitely a great player, but I just feel like New York's just going to be that bad that he's just not going to get really the love that he probably will deserve at that point. So at number 3, I got, your guy that your Eagles picked, in Derek Barnett. It definitely wasn't a huge need, but...
Where did he go to college?
Everyone knows. You asked the question, so anybody listening to this knows. Tennessee. But I just feel like, he's not somebody who has to be on the field for every single play. Like, he can definitely start out at first as just a situational pass rusher.
Yeah, 100%.
And, you get a guy, it's 4th quarter, and you got a guy that only really played,
limited snaps.
A quarter of the game
fresh
so far.
legs. Yeah.
He's definitely going to... I think he'll tear up some offensive linemen and get to the quarterback.
Yeah.
Number 2, I have Reuben Foster
for
San Francisco. I'm not really worried about his shoulder injury.
I am.
Well, I'm talking now. But I just feel like he's just that good of a prospect. Obviously they drafted Solomon Thomas, but I feel like Foster was the more pro-ready defensive player. I just feel like he can just be that stud linebacker that, really goes a long way for any team. You see Luke Kuechly, just how much that, defense has,
thrived on his presence.
Since he's been drafted.
Yeah, just circling back to Reuben Foster, if that shoulder holds up and if he keeps his emotions in check, his tape is as good as any other linebacker I've seen in the last 5 years. He's comparable to Luke Kuechly. So, Certainly could be that guy,
I mean,
but I certainly worry about the character and the injury concern.
I mean, I feel like he could, lead the team in tackles easily. I mean,
no, don't sleep on Navarro.
I mean, he's getting a little long in the tooth. So, but number one, I mean, I went with the best offensive player for Rookie of the Year, Offensive Rookie of the Year. I got to go best defensive player in Myles Garrett. And I feel like, we talked about it before. I think I'm starting to give a little love to Cleveland after I've seen their draft. I feel like, they can definitely be a little bit better than people expect. And there's a reason this dude was drafted number 1 overall, because he's the best player in the draft.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, I feel like that's a good start to get into Defensive Rookie of the Year. I mean, you could also, all that pressure. Good. We'll really see how he handles that. But
yeah, I'd love to see it. I mean, if Cleveland can get themselves a Defensive Rookie of the Year, and Jabril Peppers, and David Njoku, and DeShone Kizer, and I'll stop. Right? I mean, Cleveland looks like they're actually doing something smart, so good for them.
Going back to that, I love that Kizer pick.
Yeah.
I mean, Cleveland 3 years ago would have taken him number 1 overall.
Yeah,
but instead they let a guy, who has talent fall to him. I mean, they drafted playmakers before him. They didn't reach for players.
Yeah, they're building and they're truly taking what they believe is the best player available at the time. So good for them.
I mean, he's definitely has potential to be a starter in this league, and they waited for him to fall to them.
Yep. And Sashi Brown just today was saying he doesn't expect to rush DeShone onto the field. They want to make sure he's ready.
If he's ready, he's ready. If he's not, he's not.
I got to give it. I mean, and I think it's a little bit of learning from their own mistakes with Cody Kessler.
Yeah.
Now, granted, they kind of had to put Cody Kessler in because just about every quarterback in Cleveland got hurt.
5 different quarterbacks, I think, had played snaps.
Brutal.
Maybe 6.
Brutal. So, good stuff. I like your picks. Certainly out of the defensive ones you said, I think that Derek Barnett guy's probably the best. But time will tell. So taking from one end of the spectrum, and the rookies we're handing awards to, and all these guys that got drafted, and it's really nice and it's really happy. How about we talk about our favorite undrafted free agent signings? And Tom, I'm feeling generous. Let's start with you.
Okay. I started with a Dallas guy.
Oh,
Cooper
boy.
Rush.
Okay.
A quarterback. Yeah, I felt like they probably should have drafted a guy to, be a future backup, because I'm not really huge on Kellen Moore.
As you shouldn't be.
But I feel like, he's got the size. I believe he's like 6'3". He doesn't have the strongest arm in the world.
Right.
But, he throws with great anticipation, and he's pretty accurate, too.
Yeah, Central Michigan, Chippewa, same school that produced Antonio Brown. Big guy. You go back to preseason, and this was a guy people were saying, could he be the next Carson Wentz, the underrated guy from a different school, not one of those power schools that sneaks into the first round. He's got the size. He seems to have the smarts. Things didn't go quite as well this season as people would have hoped for Cooper Rush. But, hey, I think you guys got a serious contender for a long-term backup in Cooper Rush.
I feel more like his arm strength could be helped a little bit if he starts using his lower body to throw, because I feel like he throws off his back foot a lot. And obviously that's not good, especially in the NFL. You might be able to get away with it a little bit in college, but definitely not in the NFL. So if he could just, work on his technique a little bit, I definitely feel like that could add a little bit of velocity to his throws.
Yeah.
Now, I picked another guy just because I love this name, DeMaurier Stringfellow. Good pick. I just feel, he has average speed, and his route running isn't really crisp, but he's able to high point the balls, and he has pretty decent hands.
Absolutely. Definitely some character concerns, but the Dolphins got themselves a pretty good player in DeMaurier Stringfellow, and it's a fun name to say.
It is. I was your sister Jackie, who I'm marrying this month.
Congrats.
Yeah, thank you. I just kept saying it this morning for no reason on our way, because I was taking her to work.
Okay.
And just annoyed her. I just love saying the name though.
That's good. Maybe you should get his jersey.
I might if.
There you go.
Good old Cowtown. Shout out to Cowtown. Has it? I could get it.
Nicely done.
Another guy I like is Trey Griffey, and this is just because he's the son of arguably the best MLB player in the history, Ken Griffey Jr. I mean, I don't. It really has nothing to do with football. It's
Yeah.
pretty much just that reason.
Yeah, it's name buzz. I mean, every year, like I remember Jerry Rice Jr. Spent time at the Ravens camp, spent time at the 49ers camp. You know, it's all well and good. Trey Griffey, I believe he had like 382 yards with the Arizona Wildcats. He's not a terrible player. Obviously, played pretty good. He was also drafted by the MLB, even though he hasn't played baseball since before high school. But yeah, Trey Griffey to the Colts. It seems like every year they make a little bit of a splash. I remember they had Duron Carter from the CFL, the son of Chris Carter. Yeah, absolutely.
And for my third, I have a third wide receiver on here because I feel like a couple of receivers really fell out of where they could have gone. KD Cannon.
Okay, yeah.
To the Niners.
Yep.
Play for Baylor. He has home run potential. I mean, he's kind of that one trick pony guy that we were talking about that falls.
Yep.
But I mean, really, every team kind of needs that guy that they can just throw the ball up and have him run under it. And I feel like San Francisco definitely needs help at wide receiver, and if they can get any type of contribution from him, then that'd be very very good for them.
Yeah, a complete value if they get anything out of an undrafted free agent.
And last, I did this for you. It's a Tennessee Volunteer guy, Jessamine Dunker, guard.
Big Dunk
Went to the New York Giants. Who obviously have a slight need on the offensive line.
They do.
This guy, he doesn't really have great technique, and he doesn't really have good core strength. He kind of gets pushed around a lot, but the dude is a freak athlete.
Yeah.
And, if you can work with him a little bit,
he's a developmental prospect.
He's definitely somebody who could down the line be probably like a mid-range starting lineman.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that at all. And the fact that you picked a Tennessee player,
I feel like,
just
for you.
I feel like I'm wearing on.
I feel like I was a little mean with my Alvin Kamara.
You were.
Picks. I had to make it up to you.
I've actually run out of tissues here in the studio. I'm terribly sad about Alvin Kamara, but Big Dunk, great pick for the Giants. Great pickup that is.
Now let's see who you got.
Looks like we great minds think alike for undrafted free agent signings. First of all, I do want to say that whole process needs to be reviewed by the league. Every year all your undrafted free agents are on the phone making deals. Agents are making deals before the draft's even over. It would be great if the NFL could really get into that and say you can't sign undrafted free agents for 24, 48, 72 hours, something, just to kind of discourage
kind of just like NFL free agency. I mean,
exactly.
You got that,
the legal tampering period, but extend it from the back end of the draft. Give teams time to reset and get guys into teams that are actually good fits versus just because a lot of these guys teams do pick up just so their competition won't, regardless of how deep they are. You look at the Indianapolis Colts back with Duron Carter, and I know that's a little bit different story, a CFL player, but same kind of concept is they have a huge wide receiver room. It's very deep.
Yeah,
they didn't have a place for Duron Carter. So you see guys go to teams that really aren't fits. I'll get off my soapbox now. My favorite undrafted free agent signings, we actually had a lot in common. Number 5, I actually did go with Trey Griffey as well, just because of the name value. How can you not be a Ken Griffey Jr. fan if you like baseball? Yeah. Outside of him falling asleep in the dugout, obviously had a very fun career. It was a great player to watch. Number 4, I also went with Cooper Rush, quarterback to the Dallas Cowboys. I feel like I'm giving the Cowboys way too much love on this podcast. They
had a good last couple of days.
They've actually drafted very well since 2011. So kudos to them.
Ever since Stephen Jones
took over. So kudos to them, and they are building something special in the Fort Worth area, which I actually learned today is, from my understanding, larger than Connecticut. So
really?
The Fort Worth area. That's what someone told me today. I'll have to Google that. Next, again, another similar pick, DeMaurier Stringfellow. I actually, you look at guys don't always run well, and guys don't always test well.
Yeah.
But sometimes, they make an impact. And I think DeMaurier Stringfellow kind of reminds me, he went to the Dolphins, so it's kind of a funny comparison, but he reminds me a little bit of Jarvis Landry. And I think that maybe even being paired with Jarvis Landry, he can see a guy with a similar skill set and kind of learn the ropes a little bit more than he has. And he came out early. He didn't get invited to the combine because of rules with his character and things like that. So, but I think DeMaurier Stringfellow has a place in this league.
Yeah.
And I think he'll make a day one roster. It may not be the Dolphins, but I think he'll make a day one roster. At least a practice squad.
Yeah.
And that's where our picks differ. Or that's where they're the same, and now our picks will differ. I apologize. My next favorite free agent signing, running back Corey Clement. out of Wisconsin to the Philadelphia Eagles. I can't.
I was thinking about putting him.
Yeah, he actually could probably make the team if he comes in to camp and he shows that he can actually run between the tackles and he can be that other piece to the Darren Sproles, Donnell Pumphrey puzzle. I think we could cut Ryan Matthews and move on, right? Because we're building this young team, and Ryan Matthews he just feels out of place. I thought he'd be cut on day one of free agency.
He's still there.
So we'll see what happens, but I think you look at Clement. He's had some big games, even against Penn State. He had himself a pretty darn good game. He doesn't wow a lot. He gets a lot of 3-yard runs, but every now and again he'll break one. Now I don't know if it'll be as good on the pro level, but I'll certainly root for it as an Eagles fan.
Yeah.
So as far as an undrafted free agent goes, I think he's a solid value pickup. My favorite undrafted free agent signing, a guy with a little bit of character concerns. He may have done some questionable things, but he's a champion. Linebacker Ben Boulware out of Clemson to the Carolina Panthers. I think he could potentially come in, make that roster, and get on there and make some tackles. He reminds me a little bit of the Vontaze Burfict pickup for the Bengals a few years ago. But solid player, and like I said, he's a national champion. Bring him into your team.
Yeah, that's always a
let him learn
good thing to have.
Let him learn from Thomas Davis and Luke Kuechly. I mean, how could that not mature somebody up?
You couldn't really learn from a much better linebacker duo.
Yeah, it feels like Thomas Davis is the nominee for the Walter Payton Man of the Year every year. He just seems like a great guy.
Now, obviously, Luke Kuechly's arguably the best linebacker in the league.
Yeah. So those are my 5. Again, so we were similar on 3, a little bit different on 2. But DeMaurier Stringfellow. It is a fun name to say. On to our next segment, as we do every time. And again, this is part of our 2-part special here, episodes 6 and 7 of the DBC Football Podcast. We are going to get to our news around the league. So even with the draft, a lot's going on.
Yeah, as always.
First and foremost, really sad to see, again, Devin Smith getting hurt, wide receiver of the New York Jets. He is out for the year after tearing his ACL. But on a positive note, Eric Decker expects to be back by camp, which I don't think was really news, but maybe it was just a pick-me-up for the New York Jets.
They needed something.
What do you think that means for Devin Smith's future? Do you think he has a place on this team?
It really depends on where they go. I mean, they obviously drafted a guy in the 3rd round to play receiver.
They actually picked up Ardarius Stewart and Chet Hansen.
Yeah, if those guys don't work out, then they still need receiving help. I mean, Decker's not a number 1. He's more of a better as a complement guy than really that go-to guy.
Right.
So, I mean, I'm pretty sure Devin Smith only has 10 catches in his entire career so far. Yeah,
he's not. Availability is a key component of being on an NFL roster.
This was definitely his year to shine. Brandon Marshall isn't there anymore. There's an opening for him.
Right.
But I mean, obviously, it's a shame to see a young player just have injury after injury.
Right.
And just never really be able to get their career off.
Yeah, it's always tough to see that, but again, hey, part of the game.
Yeah, it happens.
Big news about 12 hours after the draft closed up, the Pegula family, after chopping heads over in the NHL, they turned the axe around and brought it out to the NFL. They fired GM Doug Whaley after what I thought was a pretty darn good draft. Apparently, the scouting community wasn't shocked. They saw it coming. A lot of people on the team kind of knew it was coming. And apparently, Sean McDermott had a huge influence on this draft, which would make sense based on some of the players they took. Sean McDermott always trying to build in that Jim Johnson mold, who he was trained by, former defensive coordinator, may he rest in peace, of the Philadelphia Eagles. But Doug Whaley being fired, hasn't really drafted very well in Buffalo. E.J. Manuel being probably the biggest bust in recent franchise history, and reports out of Buffalo were that he kind of said that wasn't his pick. So,
I wasn't really surprised by the pick. I mean, it's been talked about for the last 2 years, really, about, because there was the whole thing with him and Rex Ryan. Obviously, reports they didn't really, get along.
Right.
What surprised me the most is the timing of it.
Yeah, why? I mean,
why would you do it right after the draft?
Why keep him for the draft? You're saying that this guy's not good enough to build your team into the future.
But let's keep him around.
Yet you had him build around this draft. It's kind of strange, and I don't quite understand it. But I'm not an NFL owner.
Yeah, neither am I.
So I'm not.
Maybe one day.
I'm not Terry or Kim Pegula, and I know they left a lot of their fans scratching their head. But hey, Sean McDermott comes from the Andy Reid coaching tree, and wish him all the best of luck. somebody's got to win in Buffalo.
Somebody.
So we'll see what they do. I'm curious to see if they give Sean McDermott full control of the roster or if they bring in someone to kind of work with him.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they'll bring in an outright GM.
Yeah, maybe
with the timing of the move.
A guy with like football operations guy,
Right,
you know.
right.
Just to really be the more business side of it, so McDermott can focus more on the coaching.
Yep. And his specific fits and needs.
Mm-hmm.
So Kelvin Benjamin showed up overweight again.
Surprise, surprise.
Yeah. So the the concern with him coming out of college was potentially that he's lazy. You know, you have to be concerned about his weight,
Mm-hmm.
and so far, 2 of his pro seasons, he showed up overweight. How concerned are you about Kelvin Benjamin, and does this affect him in fantasy in your mind?
I mean, it has to. I mean, he showed up kind of overweight last year, and you know, a lot of people were really high on him, and he had a couple games here and there where he was, you know, pretty decent, but overall, he was rather disappointing.
Yeah.
I personally, you know, receiver, you need to be in shape. I mean, you gotta constantly beat the corners.
So, you know, basically, report out of Carolina that they strongly believe that his ACL injury was due to him being too heavy on those knees.
Mm-hmm.
So
I believe it.
You got to be concerned about this. Definitely, you know, take it into your mind. See how he comes into preseason.
That definitely, you know, also can't help him healing from that injury.
Right.
It's being overweight.
You want to be as healthy as possible. Sounds redundant and Captain Obvious, but it's the truth. Other news, Calvin Pryor, Marcus Gilchrist look like they're probably available to any team that has a bag of chips to trade for him. I'd be more interested in Gilchrist just because he seems like a better pro player. Calvin Pryor, highly touted coming out of school, just hasn't shown it on the field.
I mean, they declined his
fifth-year option,
so
absolutely.
It definitely looks like he's on his way out sooner rather than later.
We had some cuts. We did mention them earlier on the show. Gary Barnidge has been cut.
Yep.
Christine Michael C. Woke has been cut, and Zach Mettenberger, the infamous Zach Mettenberger, once referred to as the poor man Tom's Brady by, I believe, Charlie Casserly, has been cut. Zach Mettenberger obviously cut in favor of Josh Dobbs.
Yes.
So, more positive light, Jamal Charles signed a contract with the Denver Broncos.
Going to the rival.
Yeah, we'll go into the rival. Signed a 1-year deal worth up to $3.75 million.
Yep.
Ian Rappaport appears to be the first one to have reported that. Happened just a bit ago.
Right before our first episode.
I want to say, right before episode 6, part of our 2-part special here. I want to say, though, it irks my soul how often these players go to their division rival. A former Kansas City Chiefs season ticket holder, while the Eagles are, you know, they have my heart. I'm bleeding green over here. I do have a lot of love for Big Red and the Chiefs. I had a great time out there for the season that I was a season ticket holder. And Jamal Charles was just electric, and all the fans loved him. And now it's like, you just see it time and time again. You saw it when DeMarco Murray went to the Eagles. It frustrates me, and it makes me respect guys like DeMarcus Ware who refuse to do that more and more. I'd love to see that more. It just, I don't know. Again, I'm on my soapbox, but that's what I believe.
It also makes you wonder at the same time, like, maybe he really didn't have enough interest. Obviously, he definitely still wanted to play. But if Denver was really the only team that was showing him interest, then maybe that's what he's got to take.
Yeah.
I mean, he definitely still has love for the game and wants to play. So if the team gives him an opportunity, then, he's going to take it.
If the video's any indicator, his knee's fine.
Yeah.
So I think he made the best business decision for himself, and I think the Chiefs helped him make that decision because I do think he wanted to play. But they had his best interest in mind, which in one sense is really nice. But maybe they saved his best remaining year or years to the Denver Broncos. We'll see what happens. I think he could be a decent contributor. I think he'll spell C.J. Anderson, and he's a good 1-2 punch with C.J. Anderson in there. Of course, that does hurt C.J. Anderson's fantasy value moving forward.
The running backs are just getting too crowded. Not
to mention they have Devontae Booker. So we'll see what happens. Other news, Doug Martin appears to be back. I'm doing air quotes here, but back. They're saying in Tampa Bay he's the best they've ever seen. He's out of the doghouse, it appears.
The muscle hamster.
They didn't draft someone to replace him, so it looks like maybe they're going to try another season of Doug Martin. I think it helps his fantasy value. I would certainly err on the side of caution.
Definitely.
Last part of the news around the league, the 5th-year option deadline came and went, and 9 out of 32 2014 first-round picks did not get their first-year options picked up, 3 of them being because they've been cut from their original teams. Dominique Easley. 2 of them by the Cleveland Browns.
2 of them
by the Cleveland Browns, which is terribly sad. You never go full Cleveland. Dominique Easley was cut shockingly by the Patriots, and the Rams picked him up. He's already a decent player for the Rams. Wade Phillips is going to certainly love having him there.
Oh, yeah.
Justin Gilbert, very disappointing year with the Steelers last year and was cut. And obviously, Johnny Manziel. I'm throwing up the dollar signs here. Out of football currently, the only interest for him seemed to have been in New Orleans. They have since signed Chase Daniel.
Died down.
So we'll see what happens, see if Johnny Manziel gets another shot. I think that he potentially will get a shot in camp. Maybe not this year, maybe next year. We'll see how the quarterback crops shape up.
Yes.
Other players of note who did not get their fifth-year options picked up, we mentioned Sammy Watkins, we mentioned Calvin Pryor. The ones I wanted to kind of circle around to, Marcus Smith obviously has been a disappointment for the Philadelphia Eagles. There's still some argument whether or not that was Howie Roseman or Chip Kelly's pick. Teddy Bridgewater, gruesome knee injury.
Which is just a shame.
Just a shame. I think that signals the end of the Teddy Bridgewater era in Minnesota. I think he'll probably start this year on the PUP, and they'll kind of... The interesting thing here is that if the Minnesota Vikings can keep him on injury reserve or not playing at all this season, then he actually stays with Minnesota for another year.
Yeah.
Interesting how those contracts work out. Read your contracts, folks. And then the other one that jumps out to me is a player who, as a rookie, looked really good, but then has just since completely either been injured or fallen off. Kyle Fuller, cornerback for the Chicago Bears. Chicago's going full Cleveland. You never go full Cleveland.
Listen to us.
You listen to us. We're not going to steer you wrong. So it's interesting to see. It's always, when you get to that fifth-year option period, you start to see teams say, yeah, I made a mistake. Because, that fifth-year option is actually the value, the average of the top 10 paid players of that position.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it's usually not in question. The players that deserve it get it. The players that don't.
Yeah.
Except, obviously, Blake Bortles, who, obviously he showed some promise in parts of his career, but he definitely regressed. And, it goes back to that whole quarterback thing. Like, if they think he can really get his career back on track, and, that fifth-year option was definitely good for them. I mean, it's hard to find a decent quarterback.
I do want to throw it out there. Tom Coughlin believed in Eli, and now Tom Coughlin believes in Blake Bortles.
Apparently, by picking up their fifth-year option, or his fifth-year option.
There you go. So there you have it on the fifth-year options. We're going to transition into the 5 most improved overall in this offseason. I'm going to kind of speed through mine, give a couple highlights. I'll turn it over to you, Tom, to do the same thing. I'm going to start with the 5-1, kind of the format that you were going with earlier. My number 5 most improved overall offseason team, the Indianapolis Colts. They got in Jonathan Hankins, Jabal Sheard, John Simon. A lot going on. Obviously, they took Malik Hooker, Zach Banner, Quincy Wilson, and Marlon Mack in the draft. All those guys should be starters on this team. Nothing but good things for the Indianapolis Colts. I still do, however, not see them winning a whole lot of games, but they're finally on the right direction now that Grigson's gone. They're getting defensive players in. They're getting linemen in. Good job, Colts. Number 4, I'm going to go with the Philadelphia Eagles. While I'm not really big on the Alshon Jeffrey signing, it's a low-risk, 1-year rental move. They also brought in Torrey Smith to be another receiver, getting Donnell Pumphrey, Derek Burnett, Sidney Jones, Mac Hollins, a great special teams player, and Rasul Douglas, who led the NCAA in interceptions last year, tied for at 8. Nothing but good things for the Eagles. They addressed offense, free agency, defense in the draft. My number 3 most improved team this offseason, Jacksonville Jaguars. So, hey, we believe in Blake, and we went out and we got Calais Campbell, A.J. Boye, Leonard Fournette, Cam Robinson, D.D. Westbrook, and Brandon Albert they made the trade for.
If he actually, ever wants to show up for them.
If he wants to show up for them, and I think he will. He's done this before with the Kansas City Chiefs. So I think we'll see Brandon Albert in Jacksonville, and he instantly upgrades that offensive line, which, hey, again, it helps Leonard Fournette, it helps Blake Bortles, it helps the Allen brothers, and it helps Michael Rivera. So my number 3 team, Jacksonville Jaguars. My number 2 team, most improved over the offseason, the Cleveland Browns. Not going full Cleveland. They brought in J.C. Treader, Kevin Zeitler, Kenny Britt, David Njoku, Jabril Peppers, Deshaun Kaiser, Myles Garrett. I mean, they had themselves a stellar offseason and finally brought in some real NFL talent. They're doing good things. Sashi Brown, keep it going. I believe in Huey. Go Cleveland. And my number 1 most improved overall over the offseason, Super Bowl champions did nothing but get better somehow by trading away their draft picks. They got themselves Brandon Cooks, Coney Ely, Steph Gilmore. Then they got Derek Rivers, Connor McDermott in the draft. But then my most important one for them, they also got a whole bunch of stable. They got a stable of running backs back there somewhere. Yeah. But my favorite transaction for them this offseason was retaining Dante Hightower, who's like a coach on the field. Mm-hmm. So I really thought Dante Hightower would be a perfect fit in Oakland, really push them over the top. But, hey, loyalty to the Patriots, the Patriot way, no days off. Mm-hmm. Tom, how about you?
I don't actually have mine in, the 5-1 order. I just had picked 5 teams who I thought, improved their chances, being better than they were last year.
Absolutely.
I also chose Cleveland Browns, as you did. They definitely did not pull a Cleveland move. I talked about how I liked how they let Kaiser fall to them. I thought that was great value.
Solid move.
And obviously they picked 3 studs in the first round.
And Jabril Peppers will play a little offense.
Yeah. 1.5 players for each offense and defense. But they've done all the right things this offseason. They're definitely a team, who could be competitive, and they're competitive last year, and maybe a couple plays here and there they could have won more than one game.
They were competitive all year.
Yeah.
It was really fun to watch, actually, any Cleveland game that I caught last year. So can't complain.
Also have Jacksonville Jaguars, as you had them. They added 2 of the best defensive free agents in this class, and as you said, Boye and Campbell. They finally gave Bortles some help on offense, so he doesn't have to throw the ball 40 to 50 times a game.
Or 62.
Yeah. Next, I went with the San Francisco 49ers.
Okay.
Now, I don't really think they're going to be that great of a team this year, but I do feel like Brian Hoyer is a better option under center than any of the guys they had playing last year.
Yeah, no doubt. You just got to stay healthy.
Yeah, he usually cannot stay healthy, but he's definitely a serviceable quarterback.
And if one person can coax the most out of him, I believe it's Kyle Shanahan.
Oh, yeah.
That guy's the quarterback whisperer.
And they're starting to build that defense back up. They got 2 great players in the first round.
We just feel so far removed from the Harbaugh San Francisco era, don't we? I mean,
it seemed like it was so long ago.
Yeah.
Just because there's been 7 coaches in between now and then.
Well, not literally. It does feel like that.
I also chose the Miami Dolphins. They were a playoff team last year, surprising playoff team.
Yeah.
I feel like Adam Gase definitely has that team going in the right direction.
Adam Gase is your boy.
They started handing the ball off to Jahzzar, which definitely, got their season back on track.
3 200-yard games last year. Yeah. That's really hard to do in the NFL.
That is. I feel like that definitely helped out Tannehill a little bit.
Yeah.
He wasn't forced to win games on his own.
Heck, it even helped out Matt Moore a little bit.
Yeah. And, they got younger on defense, which was, kind of their big thing. A lot of their big-name guys, I guess, were a little bit older.
Yeah.
And, they had Mario Williams in there who just did not pan out in the slightest.
He appears to have lost a step. Still looking for work.
And they pretty much replaced him with Charles Harris. I just feel like that they've made some good moves to try to, catch up to New England. I still feel like they're a Tom Brady injury away from actually getting there, or a Tom Brady retirement from leaping New England. But they're definitely a wild card team, and that's pretty much only because New England's in their division.
Right.
And lastly, I chose the Titans.
Good things happen in Nashville.
I think they're a team that's right on that brink. Maybe not being Super Bowl team, but a consistent playoff contender.
Yeah.
And they gave Mariota a true number 1 receiver. They plugged up some holes on defense.
Yeah, bring in Logan Ryan, drafting Adoree Jackson, who's another kind of he's a 4-core player on the opposite end of the spectrum, right? On defense, he's on the field all 3 downs. And then on special teams, he's a freak.
And their front 7 is actually, kind of undervalued. They're a lot better than people think.
I think people sleep on Brian Orakpo a little bit, even though highly drafted coming out of Texas, and he's been in the league for a while. But Orakpo, he's playing some solid football. They've got some good people, like Jarrell Casey in Nashville, and I got a lot of love for Nashville. It's a beautiful city. I highly recommend it to anyone who wants to go travel down there.
Oh yeah.
But I love that pick of Tennessee.
And that's all I got for my 5 most improved teams this offseason.
Yeah, Tom, I think those were all true. I don't disagree with any of those.
While I agree with you, New England has improved. I couldn't bring myself to put them on this list.
You couldn't bear to just say New England. The team that won the Super Bowl somehow got better.
Yeah.
Usually it's, teams win the Super Bowl and then players run off for big contracts elsewhere. Not in New England, man. It's the Patriot way. They've set the standard for dynasties. It's just unreal. It's frustrating.
What, 15 years now that
they're
one of the top teams?
In the last 15 years, they've only not won the division once.
And that's when Tom Brady got hurt.
That's when Tom Brady got hurt, and the team was still 11-5 with Matt Castle. Unreal success for that Belichick-led team. All right. So again, this is episode 7 of the DBC Football Podcast, part of a 2-part episode 6 and 7 with our draft recap. We did promise in episode 5 that this week we would go over our way too early playoffs and Super Bowl winner predictions. So if this comes true, you heard it here first, folks. Tom, why don't you go ahead and start us off? Give us your division winners for each conference, your wildcard teams, and then let us know your Super Bowl matchup and who comes away with Super Bowl 52 Lombardi Trophy from Minnesota.
So in the AFC East, easy pick, New England Patriots. As you said, they got better than what they were when they just won the Super Bowl. My AFC North, I got to go Pittsburgh Steelers. I just feel like they helped out their team a lot, and obviously they didn't look really great against New England last year in the playoffs, but I mean they have weapons. If Big Ben can stay healthy,
it's a big if.
They're never a team that can be counted out. AFC West, I have a little switch up. I have the Oakland Raiders winning it this year.
Yeah.
I love the addition of Marshawn Lynch. Obviously he was out for a year, but I still feel like he can be a great contributor to that team. Gives them a true number one back.
Yeah, don't forget about Jared Cook either.
Yeah, we talked about the whole Garyon Conley situation, but him and Melifonwu can definitely shore up that back end, and that was their biggest issue was passing defense.
Yeah.
AFC South, I got the Titans leaping the
tighten up, baby.
Texans. I love the growth Mariota has had.
Yeah.
He definitely looks like a legitimate NFL quarterback.
I think so, too. I had huge doubts about Mariota, and I was so afraid of Chip Kelly potentially drafting up and giving away our entire team. There were rumors of us trading Michael Kendricks, Fletcher Cox, our first round the following year, just to get Mariota. Got to say, the guy looks like he's really good. I mean, he's so efficient in the red zone. He's so smart. He's such a humble guy. Wish nothing but success for him. And I think by the end of this year, he'll be truly recognized as a top 15 quarterback.
Yeah. As my 2 wildcard teams, I have Miami making a comeback to the playoffs. As long as Tannehill can stay healthy, I feel like as long as they keep running the ball and just not forcing the game on Tannehill, I feel like they can be a very consistent team.
Yeah.
Definitely get some W's. Might even be able to beat New England once.
Man, that's a tall order. I still have a lot of concerns about Ryan Tannehill. We'll see. Time will tell.
Yeah, I mean, it's all about progression. I feel like he played better last year, but can he make that next step?
Right.
Another year in this offense.
Can he get to Joe Flacco elite status? That's what you need to know.
Can anyone get to Joe Flacco elite
Probably
status?
not.
My last wild card for the AFC, I have the Chiefs.
Kansas City.
I wanted to pick another team, but they've just been so consistently good.
Yeah.
I mean, they're probably not going to win a Super Bowl again this year, but their defense alone is good enough.
Yeah, the epitome of the consistency of the Chiefs to me is the Atlanta Kansas City game from a year ago, where Eric Berry returned a 2-point conversion for a game winner. I mean, the kind of playmakers you need on your team to do things like they do. Marcus Peters, Eric Berry, 2 of the best in the business, and that defense is way too good to be sitting at home come late January.
Yeah. Now we'll move on to the NFC. My NFC East pick, I got my my beloved Dallas Cowboys. Yeah, I'm not going to pick anybody else. Sorry, it's just not going to happen. I mean, it's not unwarranted. They are
collusion.
They are a good enough
collusion.
They are a good enough team to do it. So it's not like It's not like I'm picking like the Jets to win just because I like the Jets or something like that. I mean,
do you like the Jets?
I don't.
Okay.
Not in the slightest.
I thought I'd ask.
I do have a Jets.
Somebody has to like the Jets.
I do have a Jets Plaxico Burress jersey though.
Oh, I bet you do.
My NFC North, I had the Green Bay Packers. I mean, they're in it every year. They're just like the Steelers. You can never really count them out. They added Marty B.
Big Marty B.
Definitely an upgrade.
The the self-proclaimed black unicorn.
Okay. I mean, I feel like they definitely should have addressed the running backs a little bit sooner than they did.
Telling you, that late round sleeper, Jamal Williams, running back, Green Bay Packers.
We'll see on that one. I mean, I would have liked Dalvin Cook there. Yeah, I felt like he would have fit, or even Alvin Kamara. Just had to throw that name out one more time.
You're killing me.
NFC West, I have Seattle Seahawks. Niners aren't ready to compete. Rams aren't ready to compete. And was last year a fluke for the Cardinals, or are they really, just kind of regressing?
Yeah.
So, I mean, Seattle was kind of an easy pick for there. As long as, players stay healthy. I mean, if Russell Wilson got hurt, then
it's all over.
That division's
Trayvon Boykin.
That division's up for grabs, pretty much.
Right.
NFC South, you're a defending NFC champs, the Atlanta Falcons.
Yep.
I mean, they're just like the Patriots. I feel like they did, add more talent to their team. I mean, they weren't really a team that lost a bunch of
I'm
players.
certainly concerned about the continuity of that offensive line, which was really their strength last year. With Chris Chester retiring, I think it's been a pretty underrated and flying under the radar, so to speak. I am concerned about that.
I can see where your concerns are, but I feel like, they still got some good players on that line. Obviously, Alex Mack was a huge addition. My wild cards, I got the Eagles and the Buccaneers.
Eagles and the Bucs, two young, up-and-coming teams. One of them is better than the other.
Yeah, the Buccaneers are definitely better. Super Bowl, I got the Patriots versus the Packers.
Pat's Pack.
And obviously,
running back the old Favre v. Bledsoe Super Bowl.
The defending Super Bowl champions that got better, I have them winning.
It was too easy for you, Tom.
But I mean,
too easy.
I really just don't see a team being better than they are. As long as TB12's doing his thing.
I see your picks, and I'll raise you one better.
Do it.
So I'm gonna run through mine. We do have a lot of the same picks, and I think right now anyone that's making picks, unless they're going for shock value, probably have a lot of the same picks. I will have a couple shockers in here, though, I promise. For the AFC, in the East, I'm obviously going with the Patriots. Enough has been said there. The West, I'm also going with the Oakland Raiders. I think they've improved. I think Garyon Conley gets cleared. I think Obi Melifonwu really helps that team out, and they win a lot of games. Mm-hmm. Obviously, Marshawn Lynch, too.
Yes.
In the North, I am going to go curveball here. They were one game away last year, and I think Big Ben's health is too fluctual. Le'Veon Bell's health is too fluctual. You can't rely on Marty Bryant to play a full season. He always gets in trouble. Mm-hmm. I'm going to go curveball here, and I'm going to go with the Baltimore Ravens to win the division.
With the elite Joe Flacco.
The South, another curveball here. I am going to go with the Jacksonville Jaguars to win that division behind the beast, Leonard Fournette.
Okay.
My wild cards, I'm going to go with the Chiefs, and I am actually going to go with the Titans as well to get a wild card spot. Okay. So the worst division in football last year, it's 2 playoff teams. How about that for a bold prediction?
Hey, it's like the NFC East last year.
There you go. The NFC, the East, the Eagles are going to win the East. It's going to come down to Week 17. They're going to spank those Cowgirls. It's going to be great. The West, Russell Wilson gets hurt. Arizona Cardinals pull through. They win the division. The North, Green Bay Packers, no doubt about it. The South, Atlanta Falcons, I'm also going to go with. And then my wild cards, I'm going to go with the Dallas Cowboys. They're going to lose out on the division title, but they are going to win the wild card, setting up a rematch in wild card weekend with the Philadelphia Eagles. My other wild card team, I like them to bounce back this year pretty strong. The Carolina Panthers, with the addition of Christian McCaffrey, I think they're going to win a lot more games than they did last year. Certainly won't end up with the 8th overall pick. My Super Bowl matchup becomes Green Bay, same as yours, but they're going to go against the Oakland Raiders. The Oak Vegas Raiders, I like the Oak Vegas Raiders to win Super Bowl 52 in Minnesota, in the Twin Cities. How about that for shock value?
Woo.
There you go. Just win, baby. A lot of faith in Derek Carr and the boys in Oakland, or Oak Vegas, whatever we want to call it. So good for them, and I wish them the best of luck. And you heard it here first, Yeah. So go ahead, go out, make your bets. You're gonna win a lot of money.
Bet thousands of dollars
exactly.
on the Patriots.
On the Raiders. So go Raiders, dethrone the Patriots.
If you do and they don't win, I didn't say anything.
I like the Raiders to avenge the Tuck rule. Tom Brady's still there. Get your revenge, Oakland.
There's not one player left on that Raiders team, but get your revenge.
I think Charles Woodson works on the team still. Does he count?
I guess.
All right.
You could.
There you go. Okay, so that being said, that was our 2-part episode.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun. We had a lot to go over. There's a lot happening in the NFL. Things will start to trickle down a little bit with camp coming up and not as much, transactions or things like that going on. But, hey, we'll get to take a lot of hot takes. We'll start ramping up for fantasy. A lot of the fantasy leagues opened up this week, so start to set your leagues. Start your draft parties, get ideas in line.
Listen to what we say.
Listen to what we say. Start your mock drafting. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'll start my mock drafting next week. It's a little early, but, you got to get that inside edge in a 16-team league. So a lot of screenshots being sent over Tom's way to tell him that he's going to stink this year.
Am I? All because I stunk the last 2 years. Does that mean I stink this year?
Hey, third time's a charm, buddy.
Hey, in my other league, it took me 2 years to really get in.
Is that what it took? Just 2 years?
My third year, I was up and at 'em.
There you go. So anyway, that was our 2-part special, episode 6 and 7 of the DBC Football Podcast. I want to thank you so much for joining us. As a lot of us talking for about 2 hours, with a little bit of a break in between, but we soldiered through it for you to get you your news.
We did it.
Thanks for joining us. Again, dbcfootball.com. Catch us on Twitter and Instagram at DBC_football. Subscribe to our podcast, iTunes and Stitcher. We really appreciate it. Leave us a review on iTunes. We'd greatly appreciate it. Be sure to check out our blog and our photo gallery, and check out our YouTube channel, DBC Football, on YouTube. Be on the lookout for next week's episode. We'll again recap the news around the league, and we'll start to incorporate some newer segments as we get into the lulls of training camp and ramping up for fantasy season. So be on the lookout for that, and remember,
stay humble, drink craft beer,
have a good time,
and love
football. All right, thanks a lot for joining us.